Tunisia beat a much-changed France team. Australia make it through to the last 16 for the first time since 2006. And Mexico beat Saudi Arabia 2-1 but are eliminated on goal difference despite Poland's 2-0 defeat to Argentina. They go through. Mexico nearly got eliminated on disciplinary record as well. All of that with myself, Nicholas, Owais and Mohammed coming up. So, guys, we are going to begin with Poland versus Argentina. Despite Argentina's a difficult start to the World Cup, of course, when they were beaten 2-1 by Saudi Arabia, they have now made it through to the last 16 as group winners, and they will face Australia in the last 16. Nicholas, Argentina got the job done in the end, it's fair to say. Poland were really poor this evening, but they've still gone through. We'll touch on that in a moment. But Argentina had a job to do, and despite Messi's penalty miss, they did that job.
No, they did. I'm still yet to be convinced by them, and I don't think they're worthy of their pre-tournament favourite status. But no, I mean, I think when you've got players like Messi, a player like Messi in your team, you've always got a chance. And I think that the sort of weakness of Poland and Mexico and obviously Saudi Arabia, who I do think are harsh to be heading out of the tournament, has probably helped Argentina. If they were in a different group, maybe the Germany group or the Australia group, or even the one with Ecuador and Senegal in it, then it might have been a different story. But yeah, I mean, Argentina probably obviously fancying themselves against Australia. No guarantee that they'll win, but with Messi in your side, they're probably likely to win any game. So yeah, I think Argentina are getting very lucky at the moment. I'm yet to be wholly convinced by them. I think it doesn't really matter, as long as you sort of keep winning games in the World Cup. You want to win games in some style. You want to be winning 6-2 and 3-0. Yeah, yet to be convinced, but got the job done. And Messi sort of he'll feel relieved about his penalty miss because that it could have cost Argentina. Thankfully, it didn't. But yeah, work to be done by Argentina, I would say.
Yeah, Owais. Two Premier League players on the score sheet for Argentina. McAllister from Brighton, of course, and a really good goal from Alvarez of Manchester City as well. Argentina obviously maybe showing their depth a little bit here this evening as well, bringing on a few players towards the end. As Nicholas said, maybe not took the tournament by storm yet, but two consecutive 2-0 wins is enough for them to get through to the last 16. And they got the job done today, despite obviously the Lionel Messi penalty miss we've already mentioned.
Yeah, they did. And to be honest, it could have been more. It could have been more convincing. It could have been more resounding. But to be honest, at this stage, all that matters is you get the job done. Like you said, McAllister hadn't started the previous two games either. Alvarez, possibly harshly, particularly in Alvarez's case. But look, they made the difference today. But I think we've got to take into account as well. Poland were playing essentially just for damage limitation, especially those last 25 minutes. There was just no intent from them at all. It was just a case of their goal living a charmed life. And Szczesny, I know you asked me about Argentina there, but I can't go 2 minutes at the moment without talking about Szczesny and just his heroics throughout this tournament, but particularly today. Obviously, that penalty save, to be honest, that served justice for the decision, because that was never a penalty in a million years. And then he's made 10 saves besides that as well. And were it not for him, I think Poland would have been heading home probably even before today. But he's once again, he saved the bacon today, and I don't imagine he'll be having to buy a pint in Poland anytime soon. That's for sure.
Yeah, Szczesny's had an absolutely fantastic tournament. A double save against Saudi Arabia, probably the save of the tournament so far, in fairness. So yeah, what a tournament he's had. Mohammed, we nearly had a freak situation today. I'm sure that most people watching were aware of it if they were watching the games. So there was a goal in the end in the Saudi Arabia-Mexico game, but Mexico were nearly eliminated by disciplinary record. I mean, can you believe that? I mean, crazily, that nearly happened this evening. I think Poland, though, as Owais correctly pointed out, actually, seemed like, I don't know if they were aware of the situation, but it almost felt like they were, because they weren't showing any attacking intent. They weren't really putting any challenges either. It's almost as if they knew, don't get any more yellow cards and we're going through.
100%. I was so disappointed with Poland's performance tonight. We saw the main man, Robert Lewandowski, up top, isolated. In the first half, he just kept getting the ball, and you need support. You cannot rely on one man himself. He just got the ball, and the gap between him and his midfielders was about 40 yards. That's going to take him about 4 or 5 seconds to get up to the pitch. and he's expected to hold off Romero and Otamendi, two of the most physical defenders I've ever seen this season. Honestly, it was so poor tactically. They were just being dominated in every position. The wings, they were being exposed. Matty Cash was struggling. Messi went over to the left for about 5 minutes, and Matty Cash was just absolutely shouting at the winger to get back and help him. But I think some of these players are, past their best now. No disrespect, like Tamil Glick at the back, he looked slow. Alvarez was having a lot of fun. He's dangerous. Alvarez, he's going to be is a really good player this season for Man City. We've seen it. He's got 7 goals so far, and today we saw one chance, 1 goal, and he could have really sent Poland out. Yeah, it was 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper. Got lucky, hit the side. The ball hit the side netting. But Poland, wow, there was just nothing going forward. I think Lewandowski, I can't even remember a touch he had in the second half. I think the only 2 touches he had were from the halfway line when he had to take the kickoff. It was not a good performance, and I think, as I said, by the barest of margins, they did go through to next round. But they've got France next. If they play like that against France and expecting the main players for France to come back in, they've got no chance. It's going to be a massacre. It could be 8-9-0. It could be a cricket scores. But then again, you never know what can happen. Poland might spring a surprise, but on tonight's performance, they've got a lot to work on. No rest. Get back on the training field tomorrow, and just work and try to put a fight up against France, because tonight they were really poor.
Well, you just took the next question right out of my mouth there, Mohammed. I was about to ask Nicholas. The good news for Poland is they're through. The bad news is they're about to play France in the last 16, and you imagine a well-rested France after the team they put out against Tunisia today. Nicholas, I mean, Poland have got to improve their performance. That's obviously certain. But do you think Poland stand any chance at all against France in the next round, or do you feel that France will be licking their lips at this game?
I mean, I would think France would win, but I remember the Euros, the one that happened last year, Switzerland beat France I think in this stage on penalties, and the Euros are different to the World Cup, less teams and all that. But Switzerland, they're no mugs, but they're probably of a similar level, maybe a little bit better than Poland. So I think Poland, they look defensively okay. I mean, obviously they conceded 2 tonight, but they look defensively solid enough, and they've got Szczesny in goal. So, and with Lewandowski, they've always got a goal. If they can just, as Mohammed said, get a little bit more courageous going forward, then they've always got a chance. So you never know. I mean, I think Poland would have had more of a chance than, I don't know, for Saudi Arabia, for example, going up against France. I think they've got more chance than Australia playing Argentina. So I don't know. You never know, because France are one of those teams that are capable of an implosion now and again. And it doesn't really necessarily matter that they lost to Tunisia today. But again, it is a bit of an odd result, and they wouldn't have wanted to go into that game off the back of a defeat. And it shows that their B team is probably not maybe quite as good as their A team. So yeah, I'd back France, but Poland just got to know that if they can just hang in there and maybe take some of their chances, or take the game deep, extra time and penalties, and they've got the chance, because France are fallible, should we say. They're a very good team, but they're fallible, as we saw today. And I think, or maybe just watch the Tunisia game and just do exactly what Tunisia did, because Tunisia probably find themselves unfortunate to be heading out having just beaten the current world champions. But yeah, I'd back France, but you never know with Poland. They might think, oh, right, we're bloody lucky to be going through to the last 16. Why don't we turn it on and reward the people of Poland? Because I don't think they would have been very much entertained by their performances so far.
Yeah, what about you, Owais? Do you think Poland stand any chance against France in the last 16, or do you think that a rested France team, as I mentioned, they'll be up there, maybe loving the fact they're facing Poland, but they'll certainly be a game that they might have been hopeful for before the tournament began?
This is going to seem like an underwhelmingly short answer after that monologue Nicholas gave, but I don't give him a sniff, to be honest. Just on tonight's showing on what France's first team have showed, it's like Mohammed said. I think it could be any score, to be honest. If France turn up and Poland play how they have been playing, I don't give them a sniff. Like, Szczesny's not going to have that sort of a game every match, and to concede 10 shots on target like they have, and to lack the firepower going forward the way they have done, I reckon France by 3 or 4 goals, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's enough anyway on Poland versus Argentina. Next, we move on to the next game in this group, Saudi Arabia versus Mexico. So the best way to describe this one, I think, is heartbreak, it's fair to say, for Mexico. Obviously conceding right at the end. Okay, they weren't actually going through anyway, technically, but I think to lose, to go out in this way would have been hard, but to concede that goal right at the end to basically kill it for them. Mohammed, it's disappointing, it's fair to say, isn't it, though, for... it's very disappointing for Mexico, but do you think with their recent performances in the group stage, they've only really got themselves to blame for this?
As I said before, you want to have your fate in your own hands. You don't want to rely on results from Argentina, Poland. You want to know what you need to do. You just get a draw or a point. So get a draw or 3 points, and you can't rely on Argentina to score X amount of goals, and you've got to score 3 yourself. You can't. It's just too chaotic. And at the end, I think the goal was coming from Saudi Arabia. They played really poorly tonight. Just camped in their own half. And with Mexico, when you know you need another goal just to go through, you have to take more risks. You saw it; they pushed everyone forward, and Saudi Arabia very clever, just caught them on the quick counter attack, ended their hopes. And I think at the end of the game, there was something that caught my eye was Lozano. He just had to go at somebody, one of his teammates. He just had a quick pop at him. And I think maybe it's a bit of emotions, but I think that's not a good sign to see on publicly as well. It just shows that the team's not really connected together. I think they are disappointed, but let it know publicly where he's just completely pushed his team. It didn't really push him, but he just kind of brushed him off and just shouted at him. It's not a good look for the team. It just shows they are pretty disjointed. I know you're disappointed, but you lose and you win as a team. You can't do that on the international stage, and I'm expecting him to get in a bit of trouble from the manager for that.
Yeah, Nicholas, obviously Saudi Arabia had their fairy tale beginning to this World Cup with that 2-1 win against Argentina. It hasn't quite worked out for Saudi Arabia since, but I think I speak for everyone really when I say they can really be proud of their efforts in this tournament. They really have given it a much better go than many people thought. They haven't lost one game convincingly. Yeah, they can definitely be proud of their efforts, Saudi Arabia, but ultimately they have fallen short in the group stage, as many people would have predicted.
Yeah, I feel a bit sorry for Saudi Arabia actually, because I think they probably, I mean, it's not very high bar, but I think they've been probably the best team in this group, to be honest. And they've obviously beat Argentina, and I think they were, I don't know, I think that they sort of took the wrong approach today. I think that Mexico team was beatable, eminently beatable, and they could have, because Saudi Arabia looked okay going forward in the times that they did deign to get out of their own half. So I don't know, it's a bit of a shame. It feels like it's a bit avoidable for Saudi Arabia that they went out, because I think that Mexico team was beatable, and maybe if they sort of got out a bit more sort of when it was 1-0 or even 2-0 sort of before they might have been a different result. But I don't know. We don't know what Saudi Arabia were hoping for in terms of where they hope to get to in the tournament, but you'd have thought of an honourable group stage exit would have probably been around where they were aiming. But I think when they have their meeting or whatever about the World Cup, I think when they look back on the group and the fact that a bang average Poland team, a bang average Argentina team, and a bang average Mexico team, I think they're probably thinking, bugger, we probably should have got out. We probably could have got out of that group. But yeah, and I mean, I think Saudi Arabia, because remember they were at Russia 2018 where they were comprehensively beaten by Russia and didn't make out the group again. But as you say, they've definitely done better than people would have thought, and obviously given us one of the stories of the tournament when they beat Argentina. But yeah, maybe they peaked too early. I'm not sure. Maybe didn't really have enough in their tank after all that effort against Argentina. But yeah, it's a shame for them, because I think Mexico were beatable. But they can be proud of their efforts, and their fans certainly made a lot of noise. So yeah, I'm glad Saudi Arabia had their sort of moment in the sun, should we say? But yeah, it's a shame because it's a tale of what could have been, really.
Yeah, Owais. I think obviously when we speak about Mexico, they seem to have a little bit of a last 16 curse in the World Cup, which is quite well known, to be honest. They always seem to go out in the last 16. Obviously, they would have played France if they went through, which would have been a very difficult game. But for Mexico, though, do you feel like, again, they got them 2 goals just after half time? But as I mentioned to Mohammed earlier, do you feel like for Mexico, it's really a point of the way they played against Poland in that first game where they were quite poor, to be honest, and obviously they were quite fortunate. Lewandowski had his penalty saved by Ochoa as well. Do you feel like that first game between Mexico and Poland in this group, looking back, was the vital one?
I think so. Just reflecting on that game as well, despite that chance Poland had, Mexico were the team pressing more in that game for the winner. But even the second game, Argentina were there for the taking. Mexico just were. There was almost a bit of an inferiority complex or a kind of a little brother syndrome that they had there because Argentina were there for the taking and they just saw off them and obviously paid the price ultimately. But I think given the amount of controversy there was surrounding Mexico ahead of the tournament. It's not a particularly surprising outcome that they've ended up going out. But yeah, I think credit to Saudi for the tournament they've had as well. Even today, like Mexico pressed, but they couldn't get more than those 2 goals. 2-1 probably did flatter Saudi slightly, but I think they've exceeded all expectations, and it's just we were expecting them to be whipping boys, and they've been anything but. So fair play to them as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Well, that's enough on Saudi Arabia, Mexico. Next, we move on to Australia versus Denmark. So, guys, Australia are through to the last 16. A fantastic story, it's got to be said, this one. A 1-0 win against Denmark. Denmark were actually quite fancied before this tournament to win this group, even above France. But after an impressive Euros, where, of course, they reached the semi-finals, it's just not happened for Denmark in this tournament. Only 1 goal scored, 1 point on the board, and that was an underwhelming 0-0 draw against Tunisia as well. And Mohammed, it's got to be said, Denmark maybe haven't, with the expectation that was on them, maybe they've kind of fell under that pressure. But it's got to be said, it's been a very underwhelming tournament for Denmark. But congratulations must be in order to Australia. The 2 hard-fought 1-0 wins in the last 2 games, and they're in the knockout stage for the first time since 2006.
I think we saw it. Once Tunisia scored, I think that message did get relayed to Australia because they were a lot better. And the game was a bit of 2 halves, really. Both sides were kind of struggling to dominate midfield. But that run by Leckie, he just kept going. And Paul Mahele, the left back, he had no idea which way he was going, whether to stick or turn through the legs. Poor Kasper Schmeichel couldn't get anything on it. 1-0. And I think there has to be a special mention to Matt Ryan as well in goal. Them corners he was collecting at the end. Got the ball, calmed his team down. A real leader on and off the pitch, it looks like. The way he got the ball and kept calming his teammates down. Like, there's a long way to go yet. So we need to take it easy. And, Adam Moy, I think once that goal went in, he's really started to dictate the midfield, started to make sure that everyone knew what their roles were. But Denmark were really poor. I think looking on paper before the tournament, I looked at that midfield 3, Højbjerg, Eriksen, Jensen, 3 midfielders, playing the Premier League. And you think against this Australia side, they should control the game, pass the ball around, and dominate, really. Up top, they had, Braithwaite up top, not the best striker, but, a good option for him. He's doing really well at international level. And Kasper Dolberg, another striker. But I think maybe it's time to go back to the drawing board for him, because I'd expected him to do really well. I expected him to be second in this group. It was kind of poor, got comfortably beaten by France, and they weren't. Tunisia, poor again. Eriksen couldn't really do anything, and I think they're just like Argentina. They rely on Messi, and I think what they were doing here is they were just relying on Eriksen. You can't rely on just one player to get you through, because Eriksen, no, he's not a good tournament, and that doesn't mean that someone else has to step up in that midfield. Jensen, has been at Premier League for 2 years now. One of those other senior players has to step up and say, no, we're not relying on him anymore. I'm going to get you through the line. That's what happens. You can't rely on one player. It's just poor from Denmark. Probably do, as I said, they do need to go back to the drawing board. Look at what went wrong, the goals they conceded. They pushed everyone forward. Leckie, fantastic for him to get that goal. And you saw the scenes in Australia. I think maybe 3:30 in the morning, but there may have been thousands of fans watching on the TV screen. A big. You gotta have massive respect for Australia. They did the hard way, through grit and determination. But yeah, credit to them. They're through now, and I think they're facing France. Tough game.
Argentina.
So Argentina, tough game. But you never know. It's the World Cup. It's the beauty of the World Cup. Anything can happen. Back to you, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Nicholas, obviously, you mentioned yesterday on the show how much, obviously, you're a big fan of Denmark and stuff, how you think, you're both kind of backing you and Owais them to win this game comfortably, actually. But I think most people were, in truth. I think even before the game, most people were saying they expect Denmark to win. Yes, Australia got that win against Tunisia, but don't really look like they've got a lot of quality going forward. And to be honest, Australia played the game really, really well. But Mohammed made a really good point, actually, that it's almost as if they knew that Tunisia had taken the lead, actually, because after that, Australia really stepped it up. And they got their goal in the end, a brilliant goal as well by Lecky. Very good solo goal, that. And Australia are through, Nicholas, and it's got to be said, now they're going to face Argentina. I mean, Australia have just got to be on cloud nine at the moment. That no one expects them to get out of this group, but they've done it against all odds.
Yeah, it sounds like a weird thing, but sometimes that momentum can just carry you through a tournament, and it was a little bit for England in 2018 or Denmark at the Euros. I'm sure there's other examples of you can just win games and you don't even feel like you've done anything just because of all the sort of momentum swelling throughout the team. So, it will be a tough game, that Argentina game. But yeah, great scenes, as Mohammed said, in Australia. And yeah, I don't know about Denmark. Anyone would think I am Danish the way I was on about them. But no, it's an interesting. Maybe it's probably just they had their moment at the Euros and in 2021, and that was it really. Sort of slightly odd that Christian Eriksen has come back into the team and suddenly they're doing bad again. But yeah, I don't know. I still think Denmark will come back stronger at the Euros. Should they qualify at the Euros in Germany, they're too good a team not to come back. I think it's probably just a World Cup is so different to the Euro. So many more teams, and it's harder to perform. But yeah, Australia, have got to just have that sort of nothing to lose attitude, because no one necessarily expects them to beat Argentina. So they've got to think, right, well, let's just play our game, stay defensively solid, and then take our chances on the counter attack. And if I suppose, and also they don't want to focus all their attention on Messi, because the temptation is just to focus on Messi and forget that there's 10 other Argentinian players playing. So I think, I don't know. I would go with an Argentina win at the moment, but Australia might find that momentum and sort of good feeling and the sort of underdog story just keeps them going, and suddenly they're in the quarterfinals and they're like, oh, well, okay, right, this is a bit weird, but okay, let's carry on. But no, I'll go with an Argentina win for my prediction, but I'm not. I don't think they're going to win that 5-0. I think it'll probably be a bit more of a tight game, that 2-1 or 3-1.
Yeah, Owais, it's got to be said as well, a disappointment from Denmark's point of view. I don't think many people always had Denmark bottom of this group. I don't think anyone had Denmark bottom of this group, in fact, before the tournament began. Where do you think it's gone wrong for Denmark in this tournament? Is there any certain areas that you pinpoint, or do you just think they've just really not turned up and just over the course of 3 games, they've just not been good enough?
Mohammed highlighted the midfield there, but for me, it's the strikers, to be honest. I was really underwhelmed by it. You saw someone, Cornelius came on, this side, and he had a couple of chances which he really should be putting away at this level. Obviously, Braithwaite was ineffective. As was Damsgaard, obviously not especially up front himself, but again in that area of the pitch, and a half decent striker puts away those chances, and you're talking about Denmark qualifying for the next round. So I think it was an issue of just the strikers didn't have the shooting boots on, and I was just wondering to myself during the game, surely there must be a Danish striker somewhere that outside of this squad that could have done a job better than some of these guys had. Even on the bench, I'm surprised Wind hasn't started a game this tournament. There was a decent amount of hype surrounding him at the Euros. I thought he might get a bit more of a go, but not to be. And not to put a downer on the plucky underdog story, so to speak. But I am a bit disappointed that they've gone out, because Denmark Argentina would have been a really good watch, and I'm not sure anyone's appetite is particularly anyone's mouth is particularly watering at the prospect of Argentina against Australia at 7 o'clock on Saturday night. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy for Australia, but for the sake of the tournament, I think a Denmark Argentina or even a Tunisia Argentina would have been a better affair and a better spectacle.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a favourable one for Argentina, but you never know, though. Australia could spring an upset. You never know. And that's enough anyway in Australia, Denmark. Final game we're going to move on to is Tunisia versus France. So I can't really believe the fact Tunisia beat France 1-0, and this is the game we're talking about last. It kind of feels weird to be talking about what should be considered a huge upset. It still is considered a huge upset, don't get me wrong, but we're talking about it last because ultimately didn't really impact the group at all, did it? I mean, Tunisia, of course, did finish in third place with this win, but overall, Mohammed, it's got to be said, the team France put out, I think did raise a lot of eyebrows before the game, and it's understandable. Obviously, you want to rest players for the knockout stages, but in the end, I think, maybe this does prove that France's squad depth isn't quite as strong as what people think. With all due respect to Tunisia, they are one of the weakest teams in the tournament. So for their, B team, a bit of a B and a C team, you can say losing to Tunisia, maybe says that maybe France's depth isn't quite as good as what people think, but it's still got to be said. Credit to Tunisia. They had a job to do and they got it done. And Wabi Kazri, who always seems to turn up in World Cups for Tunisia, former Sunderland man, scored a very, very good solo goal as well.
I think Didier Deschamps, he just saw, we've qualified. Let's rest some of the players. 9 changes. And that really reflected that first half. France was so poor. I think there was no fluency. There was no cohesion. The midfield was being overrun. But I think even though France lost, you have to question the manager. Why is Camavinga playing at left back? Or why is Guendouzi playing right wing? No, they're both midfielders. It's absolutely ridiculous why these two are playing in positions they've never played before. And you think, with Lucas Hernandez obviously injured and, his brother Theo Hernandez is coming. Obviously, he's got to rest the left back, but there's another French left back in the world, Ferland Mendy, unless he's not heard of him, Champions League winner last season. Didier Deschamps doesn't seem to call him up. It's an absolute surprise. Someone on the right, I think Coleman tonight was absolutely shocking. He had one chance in the first half. The first touch was bad. The second one he shot was even worse. So it just summed up the night. Midfield, not good enough. Vertu, Coleman, and Fofana, 3 I picked up on really poor. I think the goal as well. Fofana just appealing. What are you doing? Why is he appealing for? And he's not running back. It's like players are just begging for the foul. He knows the ball's been won fair and square. He's got up and he's just got his hands up. It's not foul. And rightly so, he got punished. Mandanda in goal didn't even look convincing at all. It was just a poor showing. And I think Deschamps, he wouldn't have liked it, but to bring on Mbappe, Griezmann, Dembele, Rabiot, he was a bit concerned there. And he probably did not want to bring any of those players on. But credit to Tunisia, they saw it out. But Griezmann thought he did score to get the equaliser. But it was, rightly so, it was ruled off offside. But Tunisia were far the better team. They did take the lead, within 5 minutes, but it was ruled off for offside. More than that, Tunisia, I think, credit to them, just fighting for every ball, clearances, hustling the back four. Is just poor from France. I think Kanate, I think was one who I picked out, had a really good game. He was one who had to switch on because Camavinga was just not there. Maybe it's the positions, he's never played there before, so he kept getting caught out. Kanate 1-on-1, no one was going past him, but it was just poor from France tonight. But I think when you've already qualified, I think you're allowed to rest some players. They are still a world-class side. They got Australia next. They're probably thinking, yeah, okay, let's go again. We'll play our main players again. But, you have to credit Tunisia for this. They were close, but a bit of Matthew Leckie brilliance saw them go home. Back to you, Sam.
Yeah, well, sorry to correct you. It's don't forget, it's Poland they're playing next, not Australia. but for France. But yes, Nicholas. Obviously, again, you mentioned earlier on about France's B team maybe not been as strong as what people think, and well, a disappointing one, it's got to be said, by France. But does credit have to go to Tunisia this evening? I think that they definitely played well enough to win the game, and I think Tunisia again can be another team a bit like Saudi Arabia who can really hold their heads high despite going out of this tournament.
Yeah, I just had a look at their fixtures, their results rather, because I wasn't sure. They've got they got out the group on, they exited the group on 4 points with 1 win and a draw. I mean, which is quite unlucky. You think of some of the teams that have gone out. Similar. It is very similar to Saudi Arabia, as you said. So no, I think Tunisia can be happy with their results. So maybe sort of a little bit annoyed they didn't go for it more in the draw. Had they won that game, they probably would have gone through. Or would have been maybe in more contention to go through. But yeah, considering we are due to play France, I think if we beat Senegal, if touch wood, it does sort of lessen the worry of playing them, because they're sort of their mentality now, or part of their mentality now, must be, I hope we don't have any too many injuries. Considering that this B team has lost to a team that ended up going out. So no, it's a risky strategy by France. And I'm not sure, I don't know. I mean, because you look at some of the B teams, our B team and maybe some other teams looking really good. So, yeah, I think it maybe has made the rest of the teams in the World Cup, especially, like Spain and us and Brazil, maybe, etc. think, maybe this France team are not quite as good as what people think they are, or at least thought they are before the tournament. So no, really good win for Tunisia, and a shame really, because you wouldn't sort of, if I was Tunisian or Tunisia player or Tunisia manager, you sort of think, that performance should be rewarded with progression through to the next round. Maybe the World Cup should introduce a sort of third best team, best third team sort of rule into it. But no, unfortunate for Tunisia, but they can hold their heads up high and think, we've got a chance, a real crack at qualifying for the next World Cup. They'll be in that sort of African pot of teams, with Morocco and Egypt and stuff. So no, it'll be, hopefully they can qualify again, because I like Tunisia, and they were quite good actually. The Russia World Cup, pushing close in that first game. So no, unfortunate for Tunisia, and maybe a bit of worry for France, because it's a damaging defeat, I would say. I don't think they can completely brush it off and say, we just threw the game, it doesn't really matter, we're through anyway. That is partly it, but you also got to think, they've got games to play, and Australia are coming into it off the back of a win, and I don't know. Yeah, I feel like it signifies towards something more for France. I'm not saying they're going to completely bomb and lose to Australia, but I don't know. I'm not so sure they're going to go all the way now after that, because they'll be hoping for no more injuries, and that B team does look fallible if they do get, if say Mbappe got injured or something. So yeah, good win for Tunisia. Unfortunate for them, but maybe a few alarms waiting for France.
What about you, Owais? Concern for France, or do you think this was just a game that they kind of just had to coast through, no matter what team they put out when they were already through to the next round, went through as group winners as well? Do you feel like not really concerned for France, or do you think that maybe if they get 1 or 2 injuries, there might be a few worries now, seeing how their second squad performed today?
No, I'm not reading too much into it, to be honest. It's just a case of putting it off. I remember in 2018 when Southgate did this against Belgium. He spoke after the game about saying, look, there was more to it than the result tonight. It was more about that kind of team ethos and getting all the players feeling like they were involved. And I think it was the same tonight. And even with the individual performances, I think I'm not reading too much into that, because none of these individuals are particularly bad players. It's just the fact that they've never played as a team before. As in all 9 changes, you're not gonna, even if you have a couple of injuries, it's a case of one player slotting into the position. Whereas he's made 9 changes. I mean, you're not really expecting much, are you? So I don't think they're going to take particularly too much notice of this. I don't think other teams are. I think, to be honest, there's more narrative to focus on Tunisia than France. So pretty gutted for them going out. I mean, obviously, the point table is not an unfair unfair parameter on which to assess it, but I would have liked to see them in the round 16 over Australia, partly because of how passionate their fans are and the vibe they've brought to this tournament. But yeah, with France, I still see them getting to, again, not to put a downer on England, but I see them beating England still with their first team. And today was just a case of giving the second string team a bit of a run out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's enough on today's action anyway, guys. Now let's move on to tomorrow's action. So first up, we're going to speak about Japan versus Spain. Of course, job is not done for Spain. An emphatic win, of course, in that first game, which was against Costa Rica, but a 1-1 draw with Germany last time out. And as for Japan, they give themselves a little bit. Well, they did really well in the first game, but they didn't give themselves any hope, actually, in that game against Costa Rica. They were terrible, as we all rightly pointed out on the show at the weekend. It's probably one of the worst games of the tournament. Mohammed, Japan, they've proved already they can cause an upset in this tournament. They did it against Germany. Do you think they have any chance against Spain, or do you feel like Spain, will get this win in the 7 points and ultimately top the group?
I think it depends on Luis Enrique, the manager. It depends what sort of team he puts out. He might do a Didier Deschamps and make a couple of changes, rest a couple of players, because we know that midfield in particular, like Busquets, he's not getting old, he's getting older. So you might want to rest him, who's going to sort of centre back. A couple of changes I think he might make. I think Morata might start because he was the difference against Germany for me. So a couple of changes here and there could disrupt the team a bit. Japan, we all know what they got, Minamino, Mitoma, Tomiyasu, these guys are going to have to be on it tomorrow because, them two youngsters we pointed out rightly so in that first game, Pedri and Gavi, they will be on them. So I think it's going to be a difficult game to predict, but I think Spain, I think with the class they've got even on the bench, I think it's going to be too much for Japan to handle. I think Japan, even though they are fighting to stay in this tournament, I think if they do lose, it's going to be they're depending on Costa Rica. They should have really beaten Costa Rica on paper, but can't depend on other teams. You can only control what you could control. But I think Spain should really put them out, top the group, 7 points. I can't see Japan getting anything out of this sum.
Yeah, Nicholas, I feel like if Japan do get eliminated, they'll be absolutely kicking themselves for that result against Costa Rica, and especially how poor they played in that game as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just looking at the permutations of BBC Sport now. I mean, Spain. That was unfortunate for Japan. I think. Because they were really, really good against Germany. I mean, Germany aren't that great, but they were really, really good. And I don't know. I still think Japan could beat Spain just on. I don't know. I feel like Japan knew that they weren't good enough against Costa Rica, and they've still got a chance of going through. I think this is one of the few groups where every team has a chance of going through. So no, I mean, yeah, I would probably go the Spain win, but yeah, Japan. You never know. I think they're a good team, actually. They're probably one of the better teams outside that sort of top group of teams in the World Cup. And I think they can finish in the top two if both matches end in a draw, which is a slightly unlikely sort of scenario. But you never know. And I think Spain need a victory or a draw as long as the other match ends in a draw or a Germany win. So, Spain were to lose, and Japan would win their group and Spain could still be eliminated. So it's quite confusing. A lot of goal difference and sort of stuff comes into it. So I think this is probably one of the most exciting, probably the most exciting group that will be finishing this week. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Spain win, but I wouldn't count against Japan. Maybe not winning, but maybe getting a draw, which would actually help them. Because they could do with a draw. So it'll be interesting to see what their tactics are. But Japan, they have that habit of turning up against bigger teams, not beating Costa Rica, but beating Germany. So no, I think especially with that attacking quality, that Mitoma and players like that. So yeah, I'm actually going to go with the Japan win. Why not? Go with the Japan win. 2-1 Japan. Mitoma and Tomiyasu.
Excellent. Well, Owais, obviously Japan, you can argue, thrive off being the underdog. We saw the game they gave Belgium back in 2018. They were 2-0 up till quite late in that game. And, of course, beating Germany. And when the pressure was on them against Costa Rica, you kind of felt like they didn't really like that pressure. And when they were expected to attack, it kind of went wrong for them. In this game against Spain, they will be doing a lot of defending. And do you think that could play into Japan's hands on the counter-attack?
I don't know, Sam. I'm still kind of pretty disappointed by what they did against Costa Rica. I just wish they'd show a bit more adventure. They've got it in them. They showed it in the second half against Germany, and they've got the players like Nicolas and Mohammed mentioned that. I don't want to go over all that again, but yeah, I just hope they show a bit of adventure, but I'm not sure that'll be the case. And I think even if Enrique does make a couple of changes, I can see Spain winning by a goal or two, because you've got to take into account if they get an early goal, they'll just pass it around, and the other team ready gets a sniff when that happens. So even though on paper it's looking like one of the more exciting groups, I actually think it'll be a bit of an anticlimax, and Germany and Spain, sorry, will both win and both end up going through. So. Yeah, not to be unenthusiastic about it, but yeah, that's just my prediction.
Excellent. Well, we're going to speak next about Costa Rica versus Germany. And, well, Mohammed, it's obviously Germany, terrible start to the tournament, as we all know, with that defeat against Japan. They did bounce back against Spain with a draw, and they had to come from behind to get that draw as well. Costa Rica, though, you imagine will take a little bit of encouragement from that 1-0 win against Japan. They didn't play well themselves, it is worth pointing out, and their goal was quite fortunate. But after the way they lost in the opening game to Spain, you've got to give them a lot of credit, Costa Rica. It would have been easy for them to be feeling sorry for themselves and show no fight at all, but they did do that. And, if they can sneak a win here against Germany and go through, then it must be one of the great comeback stories in the World Cup, it's got to be said. Do you think there's any chance of that happening, or do you think a Germany win's inevitable?
I think Germany will win at the class. I'm sorry to put a damper on it, Sam, but I think we saw what happened in that first game against quality opposition. They got caught out. Japan weren't that good. I think if Japan did have a bit more quality in that second game, they probably would have blown them apart. But even you got Germany. I've just got to mention one name: Joshua Kimmich, midfield technician. They got to keep him quiet. You got Gundogan. But I think the issue for Germany will be that they need to defend. Defensively, they look a bit all over the place. So I think Costa Rica will have to rely on, I'd say, Joel Campbell. He'll have to show up, run to the box. Probably, we know how aggressive Rudiger is. He may do something silly, get an early goal, and then just defend. I think an early goal from Costa Rica will really open the game up, because Germany then you have to throw everyone up. They have to throw everyone up, and they'll be there for the counter. So I think it's a long shot, but I think, yeah, Germany going to win. I can't see Costa Rica winning, unfortunately. So
you're trying to find a reason for Costa Rica to win, but I know it can be hard. Nicholas, we know, of course, you're not the biggest fan of this Germany team. Can you see any sort of upset, or do you think, again, it will be enough for Germany will have enough to get the win?
Yeah, why not go for Costa Rica win? Why not? I mean, in all seriousness, I think if Germany go through, then it's one of the greatest robberies of a progression to the last 16 we've ever seen, because this Germany team are so. I mean, they're not bang average, but they're really not that great. And they were probably they were fortunate that it wasn't more against Japan. And then they were also quite fortunate not to lose to Spain. I'm glad that Spain didn't put this, go right for them and beat them 3-4-1 as they should have done. But yeah, I mean, Germany are sort of, like Mohammed was saying about the other teams, are relying on other results. They need Japan to lose, and if Japan draw, then we're going to have to win by 2 goals and la-di-da-di-da. So it's a bit, I think Germany are going to get quite distracted. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Costa Rica win. I'll go 1-0 Costa Rica, the Joel Campbell winner.
Oh, wow. I can definitely imagine that happening. Owais, I know you mentioned a moment ago you think Germany are going to win. Have you changed your mind in the last few minutes, or after what Nicholas said, or do you still think a Germany win is fairly inevitable in this one?
No, I think it's been blown out of proportion a little bit how bad they are. I mean, the first half against Japan, they could have had a couple of goals. They put that game to bed, and it's a different story. Spain are a really good side, and they've went more or less toe-to-toe with them. And look, Costa Rica, like we said, I know we touched upon it the other day, so I don't want to repeat what's already been said, but I wasn't really impressed with them. It was Japan were worse. So I think Germany will win. I think they'll be on 4 points. I think Spain will beat Japan, top the group, and Spain and Germany, which for some reason I'm having real trouble saying them two as a pair, will both go through, and it'll be all much ado for nothing kind of thing.
Yeah, there's another group that's being played out tomorrow as well, and a big game. Well, not really a big game for Canada, but a big game for Morocco. And in my opinion, I'd actually put Morocco as one of the success stories of the World Cup so far, to be honest. Been really impressed with them in the first 2 games. They're really good defensively, got a fantastic win against Belgium, played really well in the first game as well against Croatia. Mohammed, you praised Morocco for their performance against Croatia, and since then, obviously, they went on to beat Belgium as well. With Canada already down and out, they're already eliminated from the tournament. Do you think that that's a chance for Morocco to really, put an exclamation point on this and get 7 points out of the group would be a fantastic return for Morocco? The big question is, do you think they can do it?
I'm actually quite the opposite of you, Sam. I think it's a really dangerous game for Morocco because Canada, they've got nothing to lose. They've got nothing to lose. They'll probably throw a couple more players up, be a bit more adventurous. We saw Canada in that first game against Belgium. Should have rated. Belgium were there for the taking. They did take their chances. But I think Morocco, the example I use is, someone who's not been playing for Chelsea at all this season. And the way he's just stepped into that team and he's delivered, he's probably the best player in the past 2 games. And you know how much it means to him, because he's using this opportunity to show the world that, he is a world-class player, which rightly so he is. And he's been, mishandled, could be the right word, by Chelsea. And also you've got a lot more quality in that Morocco side. You've got a vast amount of experience, Roman Saiz at the back, centre back. You've got Hakimi, one of the best right backs in the world. I can't see Canada doing too much. I think they'll be overwhelmed. But I think if we briefly do touch on Canada, you can't let Alphonso Davies do everything. He's taking free kicks, he's taking corners, he's playing striker at one point. You never know, he might have to play goalkeeper. Just talking about goals they're conceding. But it's just poor. You can't rely on one player. Jonathan David, he's also there, big player, not really shown up. It's a chance for Canada to put a bit of respect on their name, to maybe get a point, get a win if they can. But at a stretch, I think Morocco got far too much quality for them, and it should be a really easy game for Morocco in the end. So.
Yeah, let's not forget as well, Canada are one of the hosts of a tournament in 2026, so maybe a chance for them to end this tournament on a high, maybe to take a little bit of momentum into the next one. Nicholas, obviously, again, I've been really impressed with Morocco so far. I remember you saying you've been quite impressed with them too, especially after their victory over Belgium. Again, do you think maybe like Mohammed that it's a bit of a dangerous game with Canada having nothing to lose, or do you really think that Morocco, with their chance to go through to the last 16, they'll need no more incentive than that to go on and win this game? And obviously, do you think it's a real chance of Morocco to, not say make a statement, but certainly going through would maybe, again, put some respect on their name, really?
Yeah, I think Morocco will win. I can't. Yeah, I'll go 2-0 Morocco. I think, I just want Morocco to make sure that winning against Belgium wasn't all for nothing. You don't want to have to expend all that energy beating one of the supposedly best teams, even though I don't think Belgium are that good, but one of the supposedly best teams in the tournament, and then go out a bit like a bit like Saudi Arabia beating Argentina. So yeah, I'm going to go with Morocco win. I was really impressed with them against Belgium, and they were quite good against Croatia as well. So yeah, I'm going to go with a Morocco win. I think I think carry on the sort of a surprise element of this World Cup, and yeah, I think Morocco will have so much confidence on that Belgium game, quite an unexpected result. That they're probably the favourites in this game, which maybe might hinder them a little bit, but I think that Canada are bottom already out, and I don't know. I see what Mohammed's saying, and I do agree that to a certain extent that they might. Might go out, sort of hell for leather trying to get that precious one win. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Morocco win. I just think that the power of the win against Belgium, the fans as well. We all know how loud the Morocco fans are. Ziyech, Saiz, all these players, and yeah, I don't know. There was something about Morocco in that Belgium game, and I think that will carry on. So yeah, I'll go with the 2-0 Morocco win.
Excellent. Owais, do you agree? Or do you feel like Canada, with a nothing to lose attitude, might turn up and spring, I wouldn't say a major shock, but a little bit of an upset maybe? Or do you think Morocco, the momentum, will carry them through to the last 16?
I think it could be quite an end-to-end game. I was planning to probably watch Croatia-Belgium over this, but Nicholas and Mohammed kind of talked me into watching this one now, so it might be a change of plans. But yeah, I do echo what Nicholas said in terms of Morocco winning. I hope they go through as well. Nothing against Canada or Croatia or Belgium per se, but after one African team's gone out in heartbreaking fashion today, I hope Morocco can kind of put that right tomorrow and go through. And I do think they will, because even a point sees them through, and there is a scenario in which they lose and still go through. So Yeah, I hope Morocco do go through,
Yeah.
and I think they will too.
Excellent. Well, the final game tomorrow, it's actually a really big clash actually between Croatia
I love
and
Croatia.
Belgium. I'm actually quite excited for this game. It's got to be said. I mean, a lot of people
Yeah,
obviously
that's
been pointing about Croatia being, I mean, they are an old team. There's no doubt about that. But they were impressive against Canada, coming from 1-0 down to win 4-1. Belgium aren't playing with any confidence. Let's be honest, they were lucky to beat Canada in the first game. Obviously, the penalty miss and then one ball over the top for the goal. And they were poor against Morocco as well. I mean, yes, Morocco were very good, but Belgium were really poor. And one team always implodes at the World Cup, and that's Belgium this year. We saw what Jan Vertonghen said in his interview after the game against Morocco. Rumours of De Bruyne having a bust up in the dressing room of Eden Hazard. Mohammed, it's not looking good for Belgium right now. And against a Croatia team who usually have some very good team spirit, it's hard to see Belgium winning this right now. But what's your take on this game?
It's just hour by hour, there's so many rumors coming out that, Tielemans, he's at the bus stop with somebody. Lukaku and Michy Batshuayi not talking to each other. Trossard and Hazard is just getting worse and worse. I think for Roberto Martinez, it's probably going to spark the end of his job, really. I can't see him continuing beyond this World Cup. It's just poor. They don't even look like a team, unfortunately. It's really sad to say. This was the golden generation for Belgium. Maybe they could win something, but maybe they're too old. Maybe their attack's too old. No one knows. Everyone's just pointing the blame at each other. No one wants to blame themselves. It just shows you the team is not there. The harmony is not there. They probably don't even talk to each other off the pitch at this point. But I think what you have to say is Roberto Martinez said, whatever's happened off the pitch stays off the pitch. On the pitch, you're a team. You just got to play. And, against Croatia, you got Guardiola at centre back for Croatia. He's been touted around as one of the best centre backs in the world. So it'll be interesting to see. And Guardiola has £150 million price tag on him, and all the big teams are interested. But he's used this World Cup really well to impress. He's been one of the Croatia players that I've always looked out for, and he's done really well. But I can't really predict this game. I think it's the battle of the old men is the best way to describe it. We've just got Modric. Modric is aging effortlessly, and then you've got De Bruyne and other players in that Belgium team who just look way past their prime. Vertonghen and Alderweireld as well. I think I've got a boring 0-0 written over this, which probably Croatia will go through, but I think Belgium, the pressure's on them, the whole nation's on their back. To go find a win, I think any goal will do anyhow. They don't really care how they're going as long as they're going. And I just don't know how it's gonna go. I think it might be tense 1-0 win. I think Croatia. I think Modric might just do something spectacular as he always does on the national stage.
That's disgraceful.
Excellent.
We can't have sensitive. We can't have multiple predictions.
Well, Nicholas, you obviously said before an this game, come on, Croatia. Do you think Croatia are going to win, or is that more hope, would you say? Or do you think Croatia will eliminate Belgium?
I mean, I'm not a massive fan of Croatia, to be honest, but I mean, it wasn't necessarily out of any dislike for Belgium. It's just I want them gone because they've got some decent players, and if they go through, could probably turn it on, and that hampers England. So yeah, I'm going to go the Croatia win. I just think Belgium, like what Mohammed was saying, they're just they're doing a France. Was it 2010 where they all sort of started fighting each other? So yeah, they're doing a France 2010. So yeah, I can't see them going through. I think they're going to be that sort of big story, big team that sort of implodes and crashes out. I mean, it's so surprising. We've got Roberto Martinez as manager. I think anyone can see that was an ill-judged decision to appoint him, and I can see why. Well, I can't actually see why they did it. There were no reason to appoint him. So I think Belgium, because there were still some good players in that team, like Tielemans and other players like that. Still, it's not to say that it's to complete the end of the Belgian golden generation. They might be able to do it in England. They might have a few years in the wilderness, and then suddenly there's new crop of players will rise and they can go again. But we talk about England should have won something by now, but Belgium really should have won something by now. Probably the Euros when they lost to Wales, or even the Euros just gone. Also, the Euros, the 2 Euros, and then the World Cup in Russia. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Croatia win. I mean, I don't think Croatia will go any further than the last 16 because I think, I don't know who they are scheduled to play if they do go through, but I think, if they come up against a sort of young, energetic team, or even a team with any energy really, then, I think they'll come undone. But just for the purpose of Belgium getting knocked out, which would be quite funny. We'll go with the Croatia win, but that's not to say Croatia will suddenly, become a good team again. I think they'll get knocked out, but in the next round. But I'll go with the Croatia win. I'll go 2-0 Croatia.
Excellent. Owais, down to you. Last prediction on the show today. Croatia, Belgium.
Yeah, we're unanimous on this one. I think I'm also going to go Croatia win. I think if they get an early goal as well, it could get quite messy given what's going on off the field with Belgium. So Croatia win for me. They'll go through. What would it be? They'll go through group winners. They'll play Germany, I think it would be, and I think they'll beat Germany and get to the quarters, and they're generally probably in there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Obviously, the winners and runners-up in this will likely play Spain or Germany, providing it goes well tomorrow. So, obviously, I mentioned about Morocco as well. I mean, what an opportunity that would be for Morocco to face one of them teams if they go through as well. It's got to be said. But
I didn't realise that Croatia were due to play Germany. Oh, actually piqued my interest. I do want Croatia to go far in the tournament now.
that is if they top the group. I mean, if Morocco win and they top the group, then in Morocco, Germany. Either way, they should both be pretty close contests.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not part my Croatia flag then.
Excellent. Well, it's been another fun day, guys, of World Cup action. We nearly had a team getting eliminated, as I mentioned as well, on disciplinary record. That's how interesting it's been this evening. And let's hope the tournament continues to deliver. And thank you all very much for joining me. We've been on air for nearly an hour, and we made it through without any technical difficulties. We made it through without any technical difficulties. Thank you. Yeah, well, thank you so much anyway, guys. I hope you enjoyed the World Cup action today, and let's hope, if I don't see you before Sunday, England can advance, of course, to the next round of the World Cup. But yes, guys, thank you very much for joining me. Pleasure as always.